Have you ever stepped outside on a perfectly clear night, felt the cool air against your skin, and looked up into the profound silence of the sky to wonder how far that gentle glow truly reaches? We stand upon our solid world, bursting with life and constant motion, yet when gazing into the ancient darkness above, we meet an absolute stillness. This is the first great mystery of our existence, a paradox that challenges our very perception of reality. We feel completely anchored, central to the narrative of existence, yet the cosmos whispers a different story. It tells of an infinite expansion where human experience is but a fleeting thought. Tonight, I invite you on a quiet journey into the deep vastness of space. We will travel far beyond the comforting blue envelope of our atmosphere, out into the truly mind-bending architecture of the universe itself. Let us start close to home, in the gentle embrace of our own local neighborhood. Our Milky Way is what astronomers call a barred spiral galaxy. It is a swirling structure composed of curving arms made of ancient stars, primordial gas, and dust, all pirouetting around a central bulge where an enormous black hole sits in quiet authority. If you could somehow stand outside it and look down, you would see a cosmic pinwheel of staggering beauty. But to understand our place within this wonder, we must confront the reality of its scale. From one glowing edge to the other, our galaxy measures roughly 100,000 light-years across. Let that number settle gently into your mind. 100,000 light-years. Traveling at the speed of light, the fastest anything can move, it would still take 100,000 years to cross from one side of our galaxy to the other. It is a span of time that is almost impossible to truly grasp. 100,000 years is longer than modern humans have existed. It is a stretch of time far longer than the era since we first learned to paint on cave walls. It represents an expanse longer than every civilization that has ever risen and fallen on Earth combined. And yet, this overwhelming immensity is just the width of our own little corner of the cosmos. Within this vast structure, we are surrounded by a multitude of stellar companions. The Milky Way is home to somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion stars. Just pause and breathe in the magnitude of that statement. 200 billion to 400 billion individual suns. Each of those burning spheres of plasma might have its own family of planets orbiting around it, with tiny moons circling those planets, ancient asteroids tumbling through the void, and comets streaking through the shadows. Our own warming sun is just one single member of those hundreds of billions of stars, sitting quietly about 26,000 light-years from the galactic center in a peaceful neighborhood called the Orion Arm. Though the night sky appears frozen, we are participating in a grand cosmic dance. Our sun, carrying its planets, orbits the center of the galaxy at a breathtaking speed of about 500,000 miles per hour. Yet, even traveling at that tremendous velocity, it takes our solar system about 250 million years to complete a single lap around the galactic center. Astronomers call this immense period a cosmic year, or a galactic year. In the entire time that magnificent dinosaurs roamed the Earth, our solar system did not even complete one full orbit. The last time our sun was in roughly this exact position in the Milky Way, the most complex life on Earth consisted of simple marine organisms. That is how vast even our own galaxy truly is. But perhaps the most humbling realization is the profound silence of the space between them. The space between stars in the Milky Way is almost unimaginably empty. Our nearest stellar neighbor, a small red dwarf called Proxima Centauri, is about 4.24 light-years away. That distance is so great that we must use metaphors to even begin to hold it in our thoughts. If you shrunk the sun to a grain of sand, Proxima Centauri would be another grain sitting about 4 miles away. The expanse of space in between those two grains would be essentially completely void. It would contain just the faintest whiff of gas and dust, and the occasional particle of cosmic radiation. This emptiness is incredibly hard for our earthbound minds to wrap around. We live on a crowded planet, surrounded by billions of other human beings, intimately sharing space with countless other living things. We are used to density, to things being close together, to the world being full. But step outside our solar system, and emptiness becomes the absolute rule. Stars are separated by such vast gulfs that the chance of any two colliding by accident is essentially zero. Entire galaxies can pass through each other without any individual stars actually hitting one another. Yet somehow, magically, even in all that endless emptiness, there is enough material out there to make hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone. The gas and dust scattered between the stars may be sparse, but spread across thousands of light-years, it adds up to truly enormous amounts of material. As the astronomer Carl Sagan beautifully reminded us, the cosmos is all that is or ever was or ever will be. New stars are forming right now in giant molecular clouds scattered throughout the Milky Way. These are quiet places where gravity has gently pulled enough gas together for the brilliant fire of nuclear fusion to finally ignite. Our galaxy is alive with stellar birth, continually renewing itself even as ancient stars burn out and die. When you look up at the night sky from a truly dark location, that hazy band of light stretching overhead is actually the combined glow of billions upon billions of distant stars in our own galaxy. Ancient people looked up and thought it looked like spilled milk across the heavens, which is precisely where the name Milky Way comes from. For most of human history, we naturally assumed that band of light was everything that existed, thinking our galaxy was the entire universe. Different cultures wove beautiful explanations for that celestial band of light. The ancient Greeks told stories of milk spilled from the goddess Hera's breast. The Romans called it the Milky Road. In India, it was reverently seen as the sacred path souls take on their journey to the afterlife. Aboriginal Australians saw a great river in the sky. People throughout history looked at that same band of light, feeling the quiet wonder we feel today, asking what it might be. It was not until the first telescopes were turned toward the Milky Way in the 17th century that human observers began to realize something astounding. They saw that the milky glow actually resolved into countless distinct stars, too faint and numerous to see with the naked eye, but beautifully visible through the magnifying power of glass lenses. This was the very first hint that our galaxy was far larger and contained far more stars than anyone had imagined. Yet, the greatest revelation was waiting quietly in the dark. It was not until the 1920s that an astronomer named Edwin Hubble fundamentally changed everything we thought we knew about our place in the cosmos. Working at the Mount Wilson Observatory, using what was then the largest telescope in the world, a reflector with a mirror 100 inches across, he observed Cepheid variables in what was then known as the Andromeda Nebula. These special stars pulse in brightness with a remarkably regular period. By measuring their apparent brightness and pulsation rate, Hubble could mathematically calculate exactly how far away they were. The result was absolutely shocking. The Andromeda Nebula was not just a gas cloud within our galaxy as many assumed. It was roughly 1 million light-years away, sitting far beyond the Milky Way's edges. It was an entirely separate galaxy, an isolated island universe of stars existing completely in its own right. Our galaxy was not the whole cosmos. It was just one galaxy among many. We now know that Hubble's original distance estimate was slightly off by a factor of 2. The Andromeda Galaxy is actually about 2 million light-years away. But his fundamental conclusion was utterly correct. The universe was suddenly vastly larger than imagined, filled with countless silent galaxies, each containing billions of ancient stars. Today, we estimate there are around 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. 2 trillion. That is a 2 followed by 12 zeros. When we confront numbers this vast, they stop meaning anything to our human brains. We cannot picture 2 trillion of anything floating in an endless sea of expanding space. But here is what makes this cosmic story deeply fascinating. As Neil deGrasse Tyson says, the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. In its infinite creativity, it has birthed things defying imagination. Not all galaxies are created equal. Some are tiny dwarf galaxies holding just a few billion stars. Others are massive spirals exactly like our Milky Way or Andromeda. And then, sitting quietly at the extreme end of the scale, there are true ancient monsters of the universe. There are galaxies out there in the deep dark that are so enormously huge they make our entire Milky Way look like absolutely nothing more than a tiny speck of dust floating quietly in an empty warehouse. What forces lurk in the dark, building these empires of light? As we drift further into the great cosmic ocean, preparing to meet one of these gentle giants, we must first learn to let go of our earthly perspectives and embrace the magnificent, deeply peaceful reality of the infinite. When we peer into the deep quiet of the cosmos, we find that these island universes come in a magnificent variety of shapes and sizes, each telling its own ancient story of cosmic evolution. The most common type in our nearby universe are the spiral galaxies, much like our very own Milky Way. These structures possess distinctive, elegant pinwheel arms and flat rotating disks that spin gracefully through the dark. These spirals are typically vibrant sites of active star formation, places where new suns are continually born within the cool, gas-rich spiral arms. The beautiful structure we observe is delicately maintained by a perfect balance between the rotational motion of the sweeping disk and the inward gravitational pull of all the matter held within it. Yet, the universe holds other forms. Elliptical galaxies represent another major type of stellar gathering. Unlike the sweeping grace of spirals, these galaxies have no particular defined structure. They exist as gentle, glowing spheres, ranging from nearly perfectly round shapes to elongated oval forms, predominantly populated by ancient red stars. Star formation in elliptical galaxies has largely ceased, as they have exhausted almost all of their available gas supply over billions of years. It is a profound mystery to realize that the largest galaxies in the entire universe are almost exclusively elliptical, majestic giants, formed slowly through the quiet merger of multiple smaller galaxies over unimaginable stretches of cosmic time. There are also the irregular galaxies, wanderers which possess no defined shape at all. These chaotic forms are often the result of ancient gravitational interactions with nearby passing galaxies, whose unseen forces have pulled and distorted their structures. The Magellanic Clouds, visible from our world, are perfect examples of such irregular galaxies, currently being stretched by the Milky Way's gentle gravity. To truly understand the infinite architecture of our universe, we must recognize that galaxies are not merely scattered randomly through the empty void of space. They are carefully organized by the invisible hand of gravity into vastly larger structures. Galaxy groups are intimate gatherings that contain anywhere from a handful to a few dozen individual galaxies. Our Milky Way belongs to exactly such a gathering, known simply as the local group. This quiet cosmic neighborhood contains about 80 known galaxies, including Andromeda and several dozen smaller dwarf galaxies, all drifting together through the dark. But the universe scales ever upward. Galaxy clusters are larger still, containing hundreds to thousands of complete galaxies, firmly bound together by their mutual gravitational embrace. And beyond even these, the largest structures of all are the superclusters, vast assemblages of galaxy clusters stretching across hundreds of millions of light years of silent space. The specific galaxy I wish to guide you toward tonight is one of those true ancient monsters of the deep. It goes by the somewhat scientific name of IC1101, a designation which simply comes from its entry number in a catalog of celestial objects created over a century ago. But please, do not let that dull name fool your imagination. There is absolutely nothing ordinary about this quiet cosmic giant. IC1101 sits peacefully at the absolute gravitational center of a massive cluster of galaxies called Abel 2029, located far away in the direction of the constellation Virgo as seen from Earth. When astronomers point their telescopes toward this quiet region of the night sky, they see a massive collection of galaxies, bound tightly together by gravity, performing a slow dance around a common, invisible center. And right there, exactly in the heart of that immense cluster, dominating absolutely everything around it, like a silent cosmic emperor sitting upon a throne, sits IC1101. To appreciate this mystery, we must slowly approach its incredible size. This single galaxy is estimated to be somewhere around 4 million to 6 million light-years across. Let that impossible distance sink gently into your mind. Our entire Milky Way, which already seemed impossibly large, is only about 100,000 light-years wide. This means that IC1101 is roughly 40 to 60 times larger than our entire home galaxy. If you took IC1101 and placed it exactly where our Milky Way currently sits in the dark, it would completely swallow our entire cosmic neighborhood without a trace. The great Andromeda galaxy, sitting about 2.5 million light-years away from us across the empty void, would find itself entirely inside the massive body of IC1101. The Triangulum galaxy, another beautiful neighbor of ours, would also be instantly consumed by its vastness. All of the dozens of smaller dwarf galaxies that patiently orbit around us, places like the Large Magellanic Cloud and the Small Magellanic Cloud, would simply become tiny, insignificant components of this giant's vast structure. It is a scale that generates a deep awe, forcing us to realize how small our daily concerns truly are when placed against the canvas of the cosmos. Yet, its physical size is just the very beginning of what makes IC1101 so utterly incredible. This quiet galaxy is estimated to contain around 100 trillion stars, 100 trillion burning suns floating together in the night. Our beloved Milky Way possesses maybe 400 billion stars at its absolute maximum. That mathematical reality means that IC 1101 holds roughly 250 times more stars than our own home galaxy. To help anchor this mystery in something we can almost understand, imagine if you started counting the stars in IC 1101. If you counted one star every single second, without ever stopping, it would take you over 3 million years just to count to 100 trillion. And that impossible task assumes you never slept, never stopped to eat, and never took a break of any kind. 3 million years of continuous counting, just to acknowledge the individual suns that make up this magnificent object. It brings a profound sense of humility, transforming our simple ignorance of the universe into a peaceful motivation to keep learning. The remarkable story of exactly how humanity, bound to our tiny blue world, managed to discover this cosmic giant begins long ago, back in the year 1790. It was then that a German-born British astronomer named William Herschel was patiently scanning the deep night sky with his handmade telescope. Herschel was one of the greatest astronomical minds of his era, a pioneer of the silent dark. He had already discovered the distant planet Uranus several years earlier, and he spent much of his quiet life carefully cataloging thousands of faint celestial objects that no human being had ever documented before. On the warm night of June 19th of that year, Herschel pointed his telescope toward a specific region of the sky in the constellation Virgo, and noticed a very faint, fuzzy blob of light. He methodically recorded its exact position and gently moved on to the next object in the vast heavens. At that time, Herschel had absolutely no way of knowing what profound mystery he was looking at. The necessary technology did not exist to measure how incredibly far away this faint object truly was. The scientific framework did not yet exist to recognize that it was an entirely separate galaxy, completely independent of our own. Herschel simply logged it as another nebula, viewing it as one of many mysterious, cloud-like objects scattered softly across the heavens. For over an entire century, that faint smudge of light remained a total mystery, quietly keeping its ancient secrets. It was eventually given the designation IC 1101 when it was carefully included in a publication called the Index Catalog, an expansion of an earlier list of known celestial objects. Astronomers dutifully studied it when they could, but without the proper tools to truly understand its immense nature. It remained just another entry in a long, ever-growing list of cosmic curiosities. It rested in the dark, a sleeping giant waiting for human consciousness to expand enough to comprehend it. Everything fundamentally changed in the 20th century, when human beings finally developed vastly better telescopes and entirely new techniques for measuring cosmic distances. They discovered that IC 1101 was definitely not a small cloud of gas floating within our own Milky Way. They realized it was an entirely separate, unimaginably massive galaxy, sitting at a distance so far away that it defies common sense. The ancient light that our modern telescopes see from IC 1101 today actually left that galaxy over 1 billion years ago. I want you to close your eyes and truly contemplate that number. 1 billion years. That light has been traveling continuously through the absolute void of space for more than 1 billion years, moving at the fastest speed allowed by the laws of physics, just to finally reach our lenses. When that light first began its epic journey toward us, the spark of life on Earth consisted of mostly single-celled organisms. Complex animals had not even yet begun to evolve. The dinosaurs would not appear on our planet for another several 100 million years. every major event in human history happened, while that ancient light was still quietly crossing the unimaginable emptiness between the galaxies. As we sit here in the safety of our present moment, we are bathed in the ghosts of the past, seeing the universe not as it is, but as it was deep in antiquity. As astronomers continued to study IC 1101, they began to understand exactly why this cosmic giant became so incredibly massive. This silent emperor of the dark did not grow to its enormous size through normal processes alone. Instead, it became a giant through an act of cosmic violence that has been unfolding for billions of years. In science, IC 1101 is what astronomers call a cannibal galaxy, an entity that has spent its ancient life eating other galaxies. To understand galactic cannibalism, we must think about how gravity works on the absolute largest scales. Galaxies do not exist in total isolation. They are gathered in vast clusters, held in place by mutual gravitational attraction. Within these clusters, galaxies perform an incredibly slow dance, sometimes passing close by in the dark, and sometimes colliding directly over millions of years. When two galaxies drift close, invisible gravity begins to stretch and distort their beautiful shapes. Ancient stars get pulled out of peaceful orbits, while primordial gas gets compressed and stretched into long ribbons across the void. If the galaxies are similar in size, they might gracefully merge over hundreds of millions of years, calming down to form a single, larger galaxy. But if one is vastly bigger, something entirely different happens. The larger, dominant galaxy simply absorbs the smaller one, stripping away stars and gas, adding wandering material to its massive body. This exact process is what has been happening to IC 1101 for billions of years. As the most massive galaxy in its cluster, IC 1101 sits patiently at the gravitational center of absolutely everything around it. Smaller galaxies that venture too close inevitably get trapped by its enormous gravity. They spiral inward through the dark, getting torn apart and gently consumed over millions of years. Each quiet meal makes IC 1101 a little bit bigger, a little bit more massive, and more dominant in its silent kingdom. Scientists carefully estimate that IC 1101 has undergone at least 76 major mergers over its incredibly long history. Imagine the scale of that ancient reality. 76 times, another substantial galaxy fell into this cosmic giant and was absorbed completely into its vast body. And those are merely the major mergers we can detect. Countless smaller dwarf galaxies have also been consumed in the silence. Galaxies so completely small that they barely registered as a meal for this enormous predator. The undeniable evidence for this cannibalistic history is written directly into IC 1101's physical structure. When you look at our familiar Milky Way, you see a beautifully organized spiral pattern spinning in the dark. Those graceful arms are vibrant regions where stars are actively forming, where cool clouds of gas are quietly collapsing under gravity to create stellar nurseries. Spiral galaxies possess lots of gas and dust, the essential raw materials for stellar birth, and maintain a distinct rotating disk shape. But IC 1101 looks absolutely nothing like this familiar structure. It is an elliptical galaxy, meaning it has a remarkably smooth, oval-shaped appearance with absolutely no spiral arms at all. Elliptical galaxies typically form when beautiful spiral galaxies merge together in the vastness of space. The immense gravitational interactions during a merger completely destroy the delicate spiral structure, mixing all the billions of stars together into a random spherical distribution. The profound fact that IC 1101 is an elliptical galaxy quietly tells us that it has experienced so many mergers that any original spiral structure it might have once possessed has been completely erased. All of those ancient collisions, all of that slow-motion gravitational chaos has stirred up the trillions of stars like someone mixing ingredients in a cosmic bowl. What remains today is this incredibly smooth, featureless giant, serving as a majestic testament to billions of years of galactic consumption. Yet, as we peer deeper into this mystery, we uncover something even more remarkable. Despite containing 100 trillion stars, it is actually a dying galaxy. The stars, gently glowing within it, are almost all extremely old. Most of them are red giants or yellow stars, ancient objects that have already burned patiently through the vast majority of their nuclear fuel. Very few new stars are currently being born inside the vast expanse of IC 1101. With so many stars, you might naturally expect it to be a brilliant hotbed of stellar activity. But we must remember exactly how it grew so unimaginably large. Every single time it consumed another wandering galaxy, it also consumed that galaxy's precious gas supply. Gas is the fundamental fuel for all star formation in the universe. Without cool gas, new stars absolutely cannot be born in the dark. Over billions of years of endless cannibalism, IC 1101 has used up or expelled almost all of its available gas. The ancient mergers themselves were often violent enough to heat the surrounding gas to extreme temperatures, making it expand and escape the galaxy entirely, or causing it to compress so quickly that it all formed into stars at once in brief bursts of activity. Either way, the final result is a monumental galaxy that has simply run out of the raw material needed for creation. What remains in the deep cosmos is a quiet giant, slowly and peacefully fading into the cosmic night. The stars that exist right now will continue to shine their gentle light for billions of years to come. But, as they eventually burn out and quietly die, there will be absolutely no new generations to replace them in the dark. IC 1101 is very much like an ancient kingdom that has successfully conquered all of its neighbors, yet has no children left to carry on its magnificent legacy. It is incredibly massive, deeply powerful, and utterly magnificent in scale. But it is also patiently approaching the end of its active life, settling into a long, profound twilight. As we journey inward, past the billions of ancient, reddening suns, we find that at the very heart of IC 1101 lies a mystery even more incredible than the immense galaxy itself. Sitting quietly at the exact center of this cosmic giant is one of the absolutely largest known supermassive black holes in the entire universe. Modern astronomy has revealed that essentially every large galaxy has a supermassive black hole hiding at its core. Our own Milky Way gently orbits around one called Sagittarius A star, which contains roughly 4 million times the mass of our life-giving sun. The silent black hole waiting at the center of the Andromeda Galaxy is even bigger, containing somewhere around 100 million to 200 million solar masses. But the black hole resting at the center of IC 1101 exists in a completely different, almost unimaginable category. Scientists estimate through careful observation that this single object contains somewhere between 40 billion and 100 billion times the mass of our Sun. Just allow that reality to wash over you for a moment. To put that staggering number in perspective, This single, quiet black hole might possess 25,000 times more mass than the black hole at the center of our entire Milky Way galaxy. Let me help you gently understand just how incredibly massive this truly is in the context of our own world. If you could somehow manage to weigh the entire Earth, you would find it has a mass of about 6 trillion kilograms. That sounds like a tremendously large number until you compare it to our Sun, which is roughly 330,000 times more massive than Earth. Our Sun is a fairly ordinary, comforting star, neither particularly large nor small by stellar standards. Now, take that unimaginable mass of our Sun and gently multiply it by 50 billion. That is roughly exactly how much mass is packed into the dark, silent, supermassive black hole at IC 1101's center. All of that incomprehensible mass is perfectly compressed into a region of space from which absolutely nothing, not even the fastest light, can ever escape. The gravitational pull at the event horizon, which is the absolute invisible boundary of the black hole, is so intensely powerful that light itself cannot break free from its quiet grasp. We have reached the edge of human comprehension, staring into an abyss that bends space and time to its will. Yet, even in the face of such overwhelming power and infinite scale, there is a profound peace to be found. The universe operates on its own majestic timeline, building empires of light and dark that exceed our wildest dreams, quietly inviting us to look up, to wonder, and to realize our capacity to understand this ancient grandeur is itself a miracle. Let us rest in the beautiful realization that the cosmos is simply the larger home in which our tiny lives are gently held. As we gently pull back our perspective from the absolute boundary of that supermassive black hole at the center of IC 1101, we must begin to ask a truly profound question. What unseen forces are actually holding this immense, ancient architecture together? We have gazed into the glowing heart of a galaxy containing 100 trillion stars, and we have felt the quiet wonder of its staggering scale. We have journeyed across millions of light years in our minds, marveling at the sheer mass of the visible matter spinning slowly in the dark. Yet, the most astounding revelation in all of modern astrophysics is that everything we have observed so far, every brilliantly burning sun, every swirling cloud of primordial dust, every supermassive black hole, and every glowing galaxy, represents only a tiny, almost insignificant fraction of what is actually out there. The universe, in its infinite creativity, hides its greatest secrets in plain sight, wrapped in a profound silence that challenges everything we thought we knew about reality. To understand this mystery, we must travel back to the 1970s, to the quiet observatories where human beings first began to notice a glaring contradiction between our mathematical understanding of gravity and the actual behavior of the cosmos. An incredibly brilliant and patient astronomer named Vera Rubin was studying the rotation of beautiful spiral galaxies, much like our own Milky Way and our neighbor Andromeda. According to the strict, well-established laws of physics formulated by Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, the stars near the bright center of a galaxy should orbit much faster than the stars drifting near the lonely, fading outer edges. This makes perfect logical sense. The vast majority of the glowing mass is concentrated in the galactic core, so the gravitational pull should naturally be strongest there. But as Vera Rubin carefully measured the light from those distant, spinning islands of stars, she made a gentle but completely universe-shattering discovery. The stars at the very quiet edges of the galaxies were moving incredibly fast. They were spinning at velocities that defied all common sense. In fact, they were moving so fast that the galaxies should have completely torn themselves apart, flinging their ancient stars out into the endless void like sparks flying off a spinning Catherine wheel. There simply was not enough visible matter, not enough glowing mass in the stars and the gas to generate the gravity required to hold these galaxies together at those tremendous speeds. Let this contradiction settle gently into your thoughts. The universe was presenting us with a magnificent paradox. What we could see was mathematically incapable of explaining what was actually happening. The cosmos was dancing to a tune that we could not hear, guided by a hand that we could not see. It was a moment of profound scientific humility, a realization that our human perception of the universe was fundamentally incomplete. The only logical conclusion, the only way to balance the cosmic scales, was to accept the existence of something entirely invisible. Astronomers call this profound mystery dark matter. But please, do not let the word dark frighten you or evoke thoughts of emptiness. It is not an absence of light. Rather, it is a magnificent, transparent presence. It is a completely invisible form of mass that does not emit, reflect, or absorb any light whatsoever. It passes through us and around us in absolute silence, completely untouched by the electromagnetic forces that govern our familiar world. Yet, it possesses immense gravity. It pulls, it shapes, and it holds the universe gently together. When we look at IC 1101, we see its 100 trillion glowing stars. But those stars are merely the beautiful, glowing decorations resting upon a vastly larger, invisible mountain. Scientists now estimate that this quiet, invisible substance outweighs all the visible matter in the universe by a staggering ratio of roughly 5-to-1. That means that fully 85% of all the mass in the cosmos is completely invisible to our human eyes and our most advanced telescopes. This is a reality that should fill us with a deep, respectful awe. Everything you have ever known, every person you have ever loved, every mountain, every ocean, every planet, and every blazing star in the night sky is made of normal matter. And yet, all of that normal matter is nothing more than a faint, luminous foam drifting softly upon a vast, invisible ocean of dark matter. As the great astronomer Carl Sagan so beautifully observed, we are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever. We are made of the rare, glowing fraction of reality, trying desperately to understand the silent majority of the cosmos. This invisible ocean does not merely surround galaxies. It is the very reason they exist in the first place. In the ancient, quiet epoch, just after the birth of the universe, the cosmos was a nearly uniform sea of expanding gas. But there were tiny, microscopic variations, quantum ripples in the fabric of space itself. In these slightly denser regions, the dark matter began to gently pool together, drawn by its own silent gravity. Over hundreds of millions of years, these invisible pools grew into vast gravitational wells. The normal, visible matter, the hydrogen and helium gas, was simply pulled into these deep, unseen valleys of dark matter. Without the ghostly scaffolding provided by dark matter, the gas would have simply expanded too quickly, and stars and galaxies would never have been born. The universe would have remained a cold, featureless void. We owe our very existence, our beautiful blue planet, and our capacity to wonder, to this invisible architecture that quietly guides the cosmos. As we zoom our perspective even further out, beyond the borders of individual galaxies, and beyond the edges of massive clusters like Abel 2029. The true scale of this invisible influence reveals itself in a structure of staggering, breathtaking beauty. It is called the cosmic web. Imagine, if you will, a three-dimensional spider web spanning the entire observable universe, measuring tens of billions of light years across. The intricate threads of this web are massive, invisible filaments of dark matter, stretching like ancient cosmic highways across the infinite void. Where these invisible filaments intersect and cross, they create immense nodes of incredible gravitational power. It is exactly within these deep, intersecting nodes that the glowing clusters of galaxies form. IC 1101 rests peacefully at the very heart of one of these monumental intersections, anchored by the invisible threads that stretch out into the endless dark. The vast, empty spaces between these shining filaments are known as cosmic voids, stretches of space millions of light years wide that contain almost absolutely nothing at all. The universe is not a random scattering of stars, but a beautifully organized, interconnected structure, an ancient nervous system of light and dark. It is deeply moving to realize that the majestic glowing spirals and the giant elliptical monsters we admire are merely following the invisible pathways laid down at the very dawn of time. The grandest, largest structures in the reality we inhabit are completely controlled by a substance we cannot see, cannot touch, and do not yet fully understand. This tension between the known and the unknown is the very heartbeat of science. It invites us into a space of intellectual safety, where our ignorance is not a failure, but a beautiful, quiet invitation to continue our endless journey of discovery. But as we contemplate this massive, universe-spanning web, another profound mystery begins to quietly emerge from the shadows of our understanding. If the largest structures in the cosmos, the galaxy clusters, the infinite filaments of dark matter, the cosmic web itself, were seeded by microscopic quantum fluctuations in the very first moments of creation, then a deeply beautiful paradox reveals itself. To truly understand the absolute largest things in the universe, we must turn our gaze inward, down into the unimaginably small. We must descend from the majestic scale of billions of light years, down into the completely counterintuitive realm of subatomic particles. The grand architecture of the heavens is fundamentally dictated by the tiny quantum whispers of the microscopic world. This realization acts as a bridge between the cosmic and the personal. The same fundamental laws of quantum mechanics that allow the atoms in your body to hold together, the same rules that allow your eyes to process the gentle light of a distant star, are the exact same rules that dictated where the galaxies would form in the ancient void. We are intimately, physically connected to the grand sweep of cosmic history. Our journey is about to take a profound turn. We have sailed across the macroscopic universe, observing the giants that drift through the dark. Now, we must prepare ourselves to dive into the quantum realm, a place where the familiar rules of reality gently dissolve, leaving behind a profound, mathematical beauty that connects everything that is, everything that was, and everything that ever will be. Let us rest here for a moment, suspended between the infinite large and the infinite small, embracing the quiet, beautiful mystery of our existence. Have you ever reached out to touch the rough, textured bark of an ancient tree, or rested your hand against the cool, smooth surface of a polished stone, and felt absolutely certain of its solid, undeniable reality. We navigate our waking lives relying entirely on this fundamental, deeply ingrained assumption of solidity. The ground beneath our feet faithfully supports our weight. The physical objects we hold feel heavy, dense, and undeniably real in our grasp. Yet, just as the night sky tricked our distant ancestors into seeing a quiet, unchanging canopy instead of a violently expanding universe, our own senses gently deceive us every single day. This is the next great paradox of our cosmic journey, a realization that challenges the very foundation of how we experience the world. The scientific reality of the matter that makes up you, me, the Earth, and the towering 100 trillion stars of IC 1101 is completely counterintuitive. To truly grasp the infinite architecture of the cosmos, we must first accept that almost everything we consider solidly real is, fundamentally, composed of absolutely nothing at all. Let us take a quiet, meditative journey inward. Imagine gently shrinking down, leaving the familiar macroscopic world of human experience behind. We descend slowly past the delicate structure of your own cells, drifting past the complex, beautifully twisting ladders of your DNA, until we finally arrive at the fundamental building block of all normal matter in the universe, the atom. For a very long time, humanity imagined atoms as tiny, impenetrable solid spheres, much like microscopic billiard balls bouncing endlessly in the dark. But early in the 20th century, brilliant, curious minds peered deeper into this profound mystery and discovered a reality that was vastly more beautiful, elegant, and strange than anyone had ever dared to imagine. An atom is definitely not a solid object. It is, in reality, an infinitesimally small solar system, a dynamic, buzzing architecture composed mostly of pure, silent space. At its very exact center sits the nucleus, a dense, unimaginably heavy gathering of protons and neutrons. Orbiting this microscopic sun at incomprehensible speeds are the electrons, forming a blurry, trembling cloud of probability that marks the outer boundary of this tiny world. The true scale of this microscopic realm is just as deeply staggering as the vast distances between the galaxies, but it is operating in the exact opposite direction. To truly understand the sheer, breathtaking emptiness of a single atom, we must use our imagination to shift the scale into something our earthly minds can gently hold. Imagine, for a peaceful moment, if you could enlarge a single atom until its tiny, dense nucleus was the exact size of a small glass marble sitting quietly on the 50-yard line of a massive, completely empty professional football stadium. Where would the orbiting electrons be in this enormous space? They would be like tiny, invisible gnats buzzing furiously all the way out in the highest, most distant bleachers of that giant stadium. Everything in between that tiny marble on the grass and those distant, buzzing gnats in the stands is just empty space. Pure, undisturbed void. In fact, modern physics tells us that an atom is composed of 99.9999999% empty space. Let that impossible, beautiful number rest gently in your thoughts for a moment. The universe is whispering a profound secret to us. The fundamental nature of physical reality, the essence of all structure, is emptiness. When you firmly press your hands together, they do not pass through one another. This happens not because they are solid, but because the invisible electromagnetic fields of the electrons in your skin are forcefully repelling each other. You have never actually touched anything in your entire life. You have only ever felt the gentle, invisible repulsion of quantum fields floating softly in the dark. This is the profound, beautiful irony of our human existence. We are essentially ghost-like beings, made almost entirely of empty space, wandering upon a world made entirely of empty space, looking up at a vast cosmos that is overwhelmingly composed of empty space. The profound, breathtaking emptiness we found when looking at the vast distances between the stars in the Milky Way, or the millions of light years stretching silently between the glowing island universes of the cosmic web, is perfectly mirrored right here inside our own bodies. The infinite large and the infinitesimally small share the exact same quiet, spacious architecture. The macrocosm and the microcosm are singing the exact same silent song in the dark. But we must remember that this empty space is not truly empty in the way we usually think of a vacuum. As we allow our minds to drift even deeper into the quantum realm, sinking past the energetic electrons, past the heavy protons, down into the very foundational fabric of reality itself, we find that the void is actually alive. Theoretical physicists call this profound phenomenon the quantum foam. It is a restless, roiling, invisible ocean of virtual particles that are constantly, quietly popping into existence from nothingness and then annihilating each other in fractions of a microsecond. The silent vacuum of space, which we once thought of as a dead, empty stage, is actually the site of a continuous invisible dance of creation and destruction. It is a sea of infinite potential, buzzing with an energy that permeates the entire cosmos. This is exactly where the universe draws its deepest, most ancient breath. It is from this microscopic, bubbling quantum foam that the magnificent macroscopic universe was originally born. Cosmologists believe that in the very first fraction of a second of the Big Bang, when the entire observable cosmos was smaller than a single atom, these tiny, restless quantum ripples were caught in a period of unimaginably rapid expansion called inflation. Those microscopic fluctuations were stretched and permanently frozen into the very fabric of space-time. As the universe cooled and expanded over billions of years, those ancient, microscopic quantum wrinkles became the vast, invisible filaments of dark matter that now stretch across billions of light years. They formed the exact gravitational blueprint that dictated precisely where the colossal galaxy clusters would pool, and where ancient monsters like IC 1101 would eventually form their glorious empires of light. The largest objects we can possibly conceive were painted into existence by the smallest fluctuations allowed by nature. This realization acts as a profound, comforting bridge between the incredibly vast cosmic scale and our own deeply personal human experience. The same fundamental laws of quantum mechanics that allow the atoms in your body to hold together. The same elegant mathematical rules that allow your eyes to process the gentle, ancient light of a distant star are the exact same rules that organized the heavens in the ancient void. We are not separate from the cosmos. We are an intricate, woven part of its deepest structure. The atoms that make up your physical form, the carbon in your cells, the oxygen filling your lungs, the iron carrying life through your veins, were all painstakingly forged in the intense nuclear hearts of ancient stars that lived and died long before our sun was even a thought in the cosmic dark. We are literally made of star stuff, but more profoundly, we are made of quantum emptiness, organized by invisible forces over billions of years, finally waking up to look back at itself in a state of pure wonder. When you look up at the night sky, You are not just an observer looking out at a separate universe. You are the universe itself, given consciousness, given form, looking back at its own magnificent, infinite body. Our human minds, composed of billions of neurons firing across microscopic quantum gaps, have somehow managed to comprehend the existence of a galaxy 1 billion light-years away. The universe has evolved a way to understand its own mysteries. As we gently prepare to return our perspective back to the macroscopic universe, carrying this profound, peaceful understanding of our quantum nature, we begin to see the cosmos not as a random collection of isolated, solid objects, but as a single, beautifully integrated whole. The galaxies, the dark matter, the stars, and our own bodies are all expressions of the exact same fundamental, underlying reality. The journey ahead of us will now take us forward, moving from the microscopic rules of creation to the ultimate, distant edges of time itself. We must travel to the far future to witness the ultimate fate of all this beautiful, empty matter, and to see what will eventually become of our cosmic giant. But for now, let us simply rest here in the quiet realization that we are intricately connected to everything that exists. We are made of ancient stars, and we are made of infinite space, floating gently together in the great cosmic silence, entirely at home in the mystery. Have you ever watched a gentle autumn leaf fall silently to the ground, or felt the comforting weight of a loved one resting against your shoulder, and marveled at the relentless pull of gravity? We spend our entire lives bound to the earth by this ancient force, observing how it beautifully draws things together. It builds planets, ignites stars, and slowly gathers billions of suns into magnificent, swirling galaxies. Common sense suggests that this gathering force must be the ultimate ruler of the cosmos, constantly pulling all matter into a tighter embrace. Yet, when we cast our gaze into the deepest stretches of the infinite void, the universe reveals a paradox that shatters our earthly intuition. The cosmos is not falling together, it is flying apart. And, to our absolute astonishment, it is doing so at a speed that grows faster with every passing second. This is the next phase of our journey, a gentle exploration of the mysterious force quietly dictating the ultimate fate of IC1101 and every other structure in the night sky. For most of the 20th century, brilliant astronomers assumed that the grand expansion of the universe, which began with the unimaginable flash of the Big Bang, must be gradually slowing down. This made perfect intuitive sense. Everything in the universe, every single atom and massive galaxy, is constantly pulling on absolutely everything else through the invisible threads of gravity. You would logically expect all of that immense gravitational attraction to act exactly like a cosmic brake, slowly dragging the expansion to a halt over billions of years. But in the year 1998, two independent teams of dedicated astronomers made a completely shocking discovery. They were carefully measuring the expansion rate of the universe by observing incredibly distant, ancient supernovas, using these brilliant exploding stars as standard candles to calculate cosmic distances across the void. What they found hidden in the light was completely unexpected. The universe was not slowing down at all. It was actually speeding up. Distant galaxies were moving away from us faster than closer ones, and the overall rate of cosmic expansion was accelerating over time. This monumental discovery was so utterly unexpected that the astronomers initially thought they must have made a mathematical error. But as more pristine data came pouring in from more distant supernovas and from entirely other kinds of observations, the unbelievable result held perfectly up. Something unseen, something incredibly powerful, was actively pushing the universe apart, completely counteracting the gentle pull of gravity and causing the very fabric of space itself to expand at an ever-increasing rate. Scientists named this mysterious silent force dark energy. Though the name itself tells us very little about what it actually is, the data clearly shows that dark energy makes up roughly 68% of all the energy in the entire universe. Just pause and let that staggering fact settle into your mind. We know that it acts as a kind of silent anti-gravity, beautifully pushing space apart rather than pulling it together. We know that its effects become more important over immense timescales as the universe slowly expands, and ordinary glowing matter becomes more spread out. But we do not truly know what dark energy is made of, where it comes from, or why it possesses the exact strength that it does. It might be a fundamental property of empty space itself, something called the cosmological constant that Albert Einstein once proposed and then famously called his biggest blunder. It might be an entirely new kind of energy field that silently pervades the universe, or it might even be a profound sign that our human understanding of gravity is fundamentally incomplete and needs to be revised. What we do know with absolute certainty is that dark energy is gently but firmly reshaping the ultimate future of the cosmos. As the fabric of space expands faster and faster, distant objects recede from us at ever-increasing speeds. There's a strict physical limit to exactly how fast light can travel through space, but there is absolutely no limit to how fast space itself can stretch and expand. Eventually, objects will be carried away from us by the relentless expansion of space significantly faster than their light can ever hope to travel back toward us. When that quiet moment finally happens, those distant glowing galaxies will simply vanish behind a cosmic horizon, slipping forever beyond our reach and out of our observable reality. For our massive, sleeping giant, IC 1101, this dark energy acceleration carries a profound and deeply melancholy meaning. It means that its ancient days of endless growth through galactic cannibalism are strictly numbered. Over the past billions of years, it has consumed dozens of wandering galaxies to build its magnificent empire of 100 trillion stars. But because of the accelerating expansion of space, there will eventually simply be absolutely no more galaxies left for it to capture and consume. It will become profoundly isolated, a lonely, fading giant floating quietly in an ever-emptying universe, helplessly watching as one by one the other beautiful galaxies fade away from view. Let me paint a more detailed, contemplative picture of exactly what this distant future looks like in the dark. Remember that IC 1101 sits proudly in the center of the Abel 2029 galaxy cluster, surrounded by hundreds of other smaller galaxies. These neighboring galaxies are still firmly bound together by ancient gravity, patiently orbiting around their common center of mass. For right now, in our present cosmic epoch, the gravity within this massive cluster is strong enough to hold the local group together against the pushing tide of the expansion of space. But in about 100 billion years, the expansion will have accelerated to the astonishing point where galaxies outside this local supercluster will start to disappear over the invisible cosmic horizon. From the perspective of any observer within IC 1101, the magnificent star-filled sky will start to empty out. One by one, distant, glowing galaxy clusters will fade permanently from view, their ancient light simply no longer able to reach across the vast, rapidly expanding void. The observable universe, which currently contains about 2 trillion gorgeous galaxies, will shrink and shrink, drawing a curtain of absolute darkness around our giant. Within the Abel 2029 cluster itself, things will remain beautifully different for a little while longer. The galaxies there are close enough, and bound tightly enough by gravity, that they will stay together even as the larger, wider universe empties out completely. Over the next several billion years, these local companion galaxies will continue to gently interact, merge, and beautifully evolve in the dark. IC 1101 might still consume a few more victims, growing slightly larger and heavier even as the rest of the universe slips quietly away into the shadows. But eventually, even the galaxies within the immediate cluster will merge completely together. The exact same violent but beautiful gravitational processes that originally built IC 1101 will continue patiently drawing the remaining local galaxies toward the center, where they will be silently absorbed into an even larger, more massive combined structure. In the incredibly long run, perhaps in several 100 billion years, absolutely all the galaxies in the Abel 2029 cluster might merge into a single enormous, featureless galaxy, even larger than IC 1101 is today. By that distant time, however, the vast universe beyond the cluster will be essentially completely empty and dark. No light from any distant cosmic objects will be reaching the cluster anymore. The night sky, if any intelligent observers still miraculously existed to look up, would show only the stars of that single, local merged galaxy set against a profound backdrop of absolute, unbroken blackness. The rest of the cosmos would have quietly slipped beyond the horizon, forever unreachable and completely unknowable to any mind. This is the deep, profound isolation that patiently awaits IC 1101 and every other structure in the universe, completely cut off from everything else by the relentless, invisible expansion of space. Each remaining island of matter will be left entirely alone with itself as the vast eons roll quietly by in the dark. This vision of the deep future might seem initially bleak, filled with a sense of cosmic loneliness. But as we sit here together, contemplating these infinite timescales, there is actually a deep, abiding peace to be found. We exist in the most beautiful era, witnessing the light of trillions of stars before they are carried away into the infinite dark. Let us hold on to this gentle awe as we prepare for the quiet twilight of the stars. Have you ever sat quietly beside a fading fire in the deep hours of the night, watching patiently as the bright, dancing flames slowly surrender to a soft, pulsing orange glow, before eventually leaving behind absolutely nothing but cold, gray ash? You feel the fading warmth gently dissipating against your skin, and you understand instinctively that the energetic light cannot last forever. This deeply familiar, somewhat melancholic process of energy slowly and inevitably dispersing into the cold dark is not merely an earthly phenomenon. It is, in fact, the most fundamental, unbreakable law of the entire cosmos, a relentless, quiet force called entropy. As we cast our minds out across the vast, unimaginably empty gulfs of space to look at the magnificent, blazing glory of IC 1101, with its 100 trillion ancient stars burning brightly against the absolute void, we are forced to confront a profound, deeply humbling reality. We must accept the absolute certainty that this magnificent light, this glorious cosmic empire, cannot last forever. The universe, in all its infinite, sprawling grandeur, is slowly, peacefully winding down toward an eternal silence. To truly understand the ultimate fate of the biggest galaxy we have ever discovered, we must first deeply understand the beautifully varied lifespans of the stars that gently illuminate its vast structure. In this magnificent cosmic giant, the most massive, brilliantly burning blue stars went completely extinct billions of years ago. Those enormous stellar furnaces lived incredibly fast and died extraordinarily young, burning through their massive reserves of fuel in a mere few million years before exploding in violently beautiful supernovas that temporarily outshone the entire rest of the galaxy. They scattered their precious heavy elements, the carbon, oxygen, and iron necessary for planets and life, far out into the silent dark. What remains today in the quiet elliptical body of IC 1101 is a vast aging population of yellow and red stars. Stars, exactly like our own comforting, life-giving sun, possess total lifespans of roughly 10 billion years. When their internal nuclear fuel is finally exhausted, they do not explode in a grand, dramatic fashion. Instead, they gently puff up into massive, cooling red giants, shedding their outer layers into the void to form beautifully complex, softly glowing clouds of ancient gas called planetary nebulas. Eventually, their exposed cores collapse into incredibly dense, softly glowing embers known as white dwarfs. Millions upon millions of stars in IC 1101 have already completed this exact, quiet transition, leaving behind ancient, cooling ghosts of their former glory, silently drifting through the dark. But the vast, overwhelming majority of the 100 trillion stars resting in this enormous galaxy are not like our sun. They are what astronomers call red dwarfs. These are tiny, cool, deeply dim stars that possess only a very small fraction of the mass of our own yellow sun. Because they are so incredibly small, and their internal gravity is so comparatively weak, they burn through their precious hydrogen fuel at an astonishingly, almost unfathomably slow rate. While a star like our sun will live for a total of 10 billion years, the smallest, quietest red dwarfs can continue to shine with a steady, peaceful, faint red light for trillions of years. They are the true, enduring marathon runners of the cosmos. Long after the yellow stars have all faded into cold white dwarfs, long after the last beautiful planetary nebulas have dispersed completely invisibly into the cosmic void, the trillions of red dwarfs will continue to burn. They will provide the absolute only remaining light in an otherwise darkening, lonely, and isolated galaxy. I invite you to just close your eyes and imagine the unimaginable, stretching immensity of that specific timeline. Trillions of years. That is hundreds of times longer than the current, entire age of the universe from the Big Bang until this very moment. Yet, even these incredibly patient, ancient stars have absolute limits. The cosmos demands balance, and energy must eventually be spent. As the vast, quiet eons roll peacefully by in the dark, even the trillions of enduring red dwarfs in IC 1101 will completely, irrevocably exhaust their hydrogen fuel. The era of starlight, this beautiful, luminous epoch in which we are so incredibly privileged to currently live, will finally, permanently come to an end. Scientists carefully estimate that all meaningful star formation across the entire universe will completely cease in about 100 trillion years. The raw, primordial gas and dust strictly needed to forge new suns will have been entirely used up, or spread so incredibly thinly across the rapidly accelerating, expanding void that it can never again gather together to collapse under the gentle pull of gravity. One by one, in a slow, cosmic twilight that lasts for billions of years, the red dwarfs will quietly wink out in the dark. The giant galaxy will grow dimmer and dimmer, fading over timescales that make the entire recorded history of human civilization look like the fleeting blink of a quantum eye. Where there was once a blazing, glorious metropolis of 100 trillion suns, there will eventually be absolutely nothing but a silent, invisible graveyard. It will become a vast, sprawling collection of cold, dead stellar remnants drifting endlessly, without purpose, through an ever-expanding void. The universe at this incredibly distant stage will be a profoundly dark, freezing place, but it will not yet be entirely empty of matter. All of those ancient stellar remnants, the billions of slowly cooling white dwarfs, the ultra-dense spinning neutron stars, and the silent, roaming stellar mass black holes, will still physically exist in the dark. They will continue to blindly orbit through the completely merged, gigantic, invisible remnant of what was once the mighty Abel 2029 galaxy cluster. The galaxy will be a magnificent, unseen ghost of its former self, populated entirely by the cold corpses of stars rather than by living, warming, burning suns. But even this profoundly dark epoch is not the final end of the story. Over even longer, more deeply incomprehensible timescales, measured in years with so many zeros that writing them out by hand would fill volumes of ancient books. Even these tough, resilient stellar corpses will begin to quietly, inevitably decay. The white dwarfs will slowly bleed their absolute last remaining drops of heat into the freezing void, cooling completely over millions of billions of years until they become pitch-black dwarfs, objects so cold and dead that they emit absolutely no light or heat at all. And what of the ultimate monsters hiding in the dark? What happens to the unimaginably massive black hole that sits quietly at the very center of IC 1101, containing the incomprehensible mass of 50 billion suns? For an absolute eternity it will rule the dark, a silent, invisible emperor sitting upon a throne in a completely dead, frozen kingdom. It will have consumed everything it possibly could, its immense gravity holding the center of the dark galaxy together. But modern quantum physics, pioneered by brilliant, curious minds seeking to understand the infinite, tells us a profoundly beautiful secret. It tells us that even black holes are not truly, strictly eternal. Because of tiny, microscopic quantum fluctuations occurring precisely at the absolute, razor-thin edge of the event horizon. Black holes slowly, invisibly leak energy back into the surrounding universe. This breathtaking phenomenon, known beautifully to science as Hawking radiation, means that over immense, staggering spans of time, black holes gently, quietly evaporate into the cold vacuum of space. For a supermassive black hole, the size of the one resting in the heart of IC 1101, this slow evaporation process takes an amount of time that absolutely defies all human comprehension. To express it, we must imagine a number like a 1 followed by 100 zeros, a span of time so infinitely, terrifyingly vast that the entire era of shining stars, stretching from the fiery Big Bang all the way to the slow fading of the absolute last red dwarf, represents less than a microscopic fraction of a single % of this total cosmic timeline. It is a timeline that brings a profound, deep sense of peace, reminding us that there is no rush, no urgency in the grand cosmic scheme. The universe has all the time it could ever possibly need to complete its silent, magnificent journey. But eventually, inexorably, even that magnificent, terrifying monster will have radiated away its absolute last, final bit of energy. It will simply, silently disappear from the cosmos in a final, gentle burst of quantum radiation, leaving behind no trace that it ever ruled the dark. When that unimaginably distant moment finally arrives, trillions upon trillions upon trillions of years from now, there will be absolutely nothing left of IC 1101 at all. No ancient, cooling stars, no supermassive black holes, no silent, invisible remnants of any kind. There will be just the incredibly thin, perfectly uniform, freezing soup of fundamental particles and ultra-low energy radiation, spreading out endlessly through an ever-expanding, ever-cooling, absolutely dark universe. The largest, most magnificent galaxy we have ever discovered will have followed the exact same ultimate, peaceful path as every other beautiful structure in the cosmos, dissolving completely and utterly into the endless night. We are left with a feeling of profound, quiet awe, realizing how incredibly lucky we are to exist in this brief, brilliant window of light, able to look up and wonder at the ancient mystery before it slowly fades away into the beautiful, perfect silence of the infinite. Have you ever stood quietly at the edge of a vast, calm ocean, just as the sun begins to sink below the horizon, listening to the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the waves against the shore? As you gaze out across that seemingly endless expanse of water, a natural, deeply human question inevitably rises in your mind. What lies completely beyond that distant, unbroken line where the water finally meets the sky? We have journeyed together across the unimaginable vastness of our own cosmos. We have sailed past the 100 trillion ancient stars of our majestic giant, IC 1101, and we have mathematically traveled all the way to the very end of time itself, watching the final, silent evaporation of the supermassive black holes into the freezing dark. It would be perfectly natural to assume that this ultimate, silent emptiness is the absolute end of the story. But modern quantum physics, in its relentless, quiet search for the deepest truths of reality, points toward a mystery so profound that it challenges the very definition of the word universe. What if everything we have explored, all the trillions of galaxies and the entire sprawling cosmic web, is merely one single, tiny droplet in an unfathomably larger, infinite cosmic ocean? To truly understand this mind-bending possibility, we must momentarily return to the very beginning, to that microscopic, bubbling quantum foam that existed in the absolute first fraction of a second of creation. We spoke earlier of cosmic inflation, that breathtaking, incredibly brief epoch when the nascent universe expanded at an unimaginably rapid, exponential rate, taking tiny quantum wrinkles and permanently freezing them into the grand architectural blueprint of the cosmic web. In the early 1980s, brilliant theoretical physicists studying the mathematics of this ancient inflation realized something deeply astonishing. The mathematical equations governing this incredibly powerful expansion did not suggest that it was a unique, one-time event. Instead, the mathematics quietly insisted that once this rapid, exponential inflation begins in the quantum vacuum, it never truly stops everywhere at once. It becomes what scientists beautifully call eternal inflation. Imagine, if you will, a massive, endlessly boiling pot of water sitting upon a gentle, constant heat. The rapidly expanding bubbles that continually form and rise to the surface are like individual universes. In this grand cosmic picture, the incredibly rapid expansion of space continues forever in the vast, underlying quantum background, creating an endless, infinite expanse of rapidly stretching space. But occasionally, in localized, isolated regions within this vast, stretching background, the violent inflation suddenly, quietly stops. The energy that was driving the rapid expansion in that specific region gracefully decays, completely transforming into a magnificent, fiery burst of hot, normal matter and radiation. This localized, quiet cessation of inflation is exactly what we call a Big Bang. Our entire universe, with all its billions of light years of space, its majestic galaxy clusters, and its beautiful, fragile planets, is nothing more than one of those localized bubbles where the inflation simply happened to stop. But because the background inflation is eternal, completely endless in its scope and power, it is constantly, continuously generating new bubbles in the dark. Countless other Big Bangs are occurring right now, separated from us by unimaginably vast stretches of inflating space that are moving apart much faster than the speed of light. This is the profound, beautiful concept of the multiverse. We do not just live in a universe. We live in a single pocket universe, existing quietly within a vastly larger, eternally growing fractal structure composed of an infinite number of completely separate, isolated realities. The true scale of existence is so incredibly vast that even our own magnificent cosmos, with its 2 trillion gorgeous galaxies, is reduced to the status of a single, insignificant atom floating blindly in an infinite, cosmic room. This mathematical realization brings a profound, staggering sense of humility, but it also elegantly solves one of the most deeply troubling paradoxes in all of modern science. Physicists call it the fine-tuning problem. When scientists study the fundamental, unbreakable laws of physics that govern our reality, they find that the universe is governed by a set of specific, seemingly arbitrary mathematical constants. These constants dictate exactly how strong gravity is, exactly how heavy an electron must be, and exactly how powerfully the nuclear forces hold atoms completely together. The deeply mysterious problem is that if you were to change any of these fundamental numbers by even a microscopic, nearly invisible fraction, the universe as we know it would never have come into existence. If gravity had been even slightly stronger, the entire cosmos would have rapidly collapsed back in on itself in a violent, fiery crunch, just millions of years after the Big Bang, long before any ancient stars could ever form in the dark. If gravity had been just a tiny bit weaker, the primordial gas would have simply expanded too quickly, never allowing the delicate gathering process that creates galaxies and warming suns. If the strong nuclear force that binds the center of atoms together were adjusted by a mere 1 or 2%, the ancient burning stars would never have been able to successfully forge the heavy elements like carbon and oxygen. There would be absolutely no rocky planets, no liquid water, and absolutely no complex chemistry capable of producing conscious life. Our universe appears to balance precariously, perfectly on a razor's edge. It looks exactly as if the fundamental dials of creation were meticulously, deliberately set to the absolute perfect combination required to allow for the quiet emergence of conscious observers. For a very long time, this apparent, beautiful coincidence left scientists completely baffled. But the quiet mathematics of the multiverse offers a deeply elegant, non-mystical resolution to this profound paradox. If there are an infinite number of completely separate universes constantly bubbling into existence in the dark, quantum mechanics suggests that each individual bubble might crystallize with its own completely unique set of physical laws and mathematical constants. The vast, overwhelming majority of these infinite alternate universes would be completely sterile, dead, and empty. They might be universes where light cannot exist, or universes filled entirely with a formless, freezing quantum fog. But if you roll the cosmic dice an infinite number of times, mathematical probability guarantees that eventually, somewhere in the dark, a universe will randomly form with the exact combination of physical laws required to allow for stable matter, ancient stars, and complex life. We find ourselves living inside this beautifully balanced universe, not because it was specially designed for us, but simply because we could not possibly exist in universes hostile to life. We are the quiet, conscious winners of an infinite cosmic lottery. We are the universe waking up in one of the rare spaces where waking up is possible. As we gently absorb the staggering implications of this infinite structure, the very nature of reality begins to blur into a profound mathematical poetry. In a truly infinite multiverse, where every mathematically possible combination of quantum states must inevitably occur, there are realities beyond our wildest imagination. There are infinite variations of the cosmic web, infinite variations of massive galaxies, and infinite ways for matter to organize itself in the dark. The true reality of the cosmos is not a single linear story leading inexorably to a cold, dark end. It is an infinitely branching tree of possibility, forever growing, forever expressing every conceivable variation of existence in a silent, beautiful symphony of quantum creation. This realization does not diminish the profound beauty of our own cosmos, nor does it make the 100 trillion stars of IC 1101 any less magnificent. Instead, it places our quiet, beautiful universe into a context of absolute, unbounded grandeur. It transforms our deep, existential loneliness into a profound sense of cosmic belonging. We are part of something so incredibly vast and mysterious that it completely transcends human understanding. Yet, the fact that our tiny minds can even begin to conceive of this infinite structure is a testament to the undeniable power of human curiosity. We are a microscopic spark of consciousness in an infinite dark, but our capacity to wonder makes us profoundly significant. We must rest now, allowing these concepts to gently settle into our minds. Have you ever closed your eyes in a quiet, darkened room and listened simply to the gentle, rhythmic cadence of your own breathing? We have traveled together to the absolute farthest edges of the infinite multiverse, and we have watched the very last ancient stars quietly fade into the deep, freezing dark of eternal entropy. But now, as our shared cosmic journey nears its gentle conclusion, we must slowly bring our focus back from the staggering distances of billions of light years. We must gently return our gaze to the most profound, beautiful mystery of all, a mystery that sits not in the cold vacuum of intergalactic space, but quietly right here, inside the very minds we are using to contemplate the dark. We must confront the undeniable, miraculous existence of human consciousness. How did a universe initially composed entirely of silent, drifting subatomic particles, invisible dark matter, and vast stretches of empty space ever manage to wake up to ask profound questions about itself? Think carefully about the incredibly delicate, highly improbable chain of ancient cosmic events that absolutely had to happen perfectly for you to be sitting here listening to these quiet words. The fiery Big Bang had to produce hydrogen and helium in exactly the perfect mathematical proportions. Ancient gravity had to gently gather those massive clouds into the very first generations of giant, violently burning stars. Those immense blue stars had to burn rapidly through their short, furious lives and explode in magnificent supernovas, successfully scattering the very first atoms of carbon, oxygen, and iron far out into the silent dark. Those newly forged heavy elements had to patiently drift through the freezing void for millions of years until they finally found their way into a gently spinning disk of gas and dust around a newly forming yellow star. They had to clump together to form a small, rocky blue planet, sitting at precisely the perfect, habitable distance from its warming sun. A distance where water could pool perfectly as a gentle, life-giving liquid. On that tiny blue world, simple chemistry had to miraculously transform into complex, self-replicating biology. Single microscopic cells had to learn to beautifully cooperate, eventually forming complex, breathing, seeing creatures. Over billions of years of incredibly slow, patient evolution, that fragile life had to somehow survive massive asteroid impacts, freezing global ice ages, and devastating mass extinctions. And finally, after all that ancient passing time, a specific species had to slowly evolve a biological brain complex enough to look up at the sparkling night sky and genuinely wonder what those silent points of light actually were. Every single step in this magnificent, multi-billion-year process was entirely contingent upon the one that came immediately before it. If any one of a billion tiny variables had been even slightly different, we would absolutely not be here to peacefully contemplate the 100 trillion stars of IC 1101. Our conscious existence is definitely not a guaranteed given. It is a beautiful, incredibly rare blossoming of awareness in the dark, and yet, against all staggering cosmic odds, here we perfectly are. Consider the profound biological and quantum miracle of what actually happens when you simply look through the glass lens of a telescope at a distant, glowing galaxy. Ancient photons of light, born in the chaotic nuclear heart of a star a billion light-years away, travel patiently through the freezing, completely empty vacuum of space for an entire billion years. They dodge massive clouds of interstellar dust, bend silently around the intense gravity of passing supermassive black holes, and eventually cross the vast expanse into our own quiet solar system. They pass swiftly through our delicate atmosphere and enter the tiny pupil of your human eye. There, they gently strike the sensitive retina, where complex biological molecules instantly absorb their ancient energy and trigger a microscopic electrical signal. That tiny impulse travels rapidly up the optic nerve and directly into the visual cortex of your brain, a deeply mysterious structure composed of billions of living neurons communicating entirely through silent chemical whispers. In that profound, utterly silent moment of biological connection, the universe is actively perceiving its own vast self. The pure energy from a distant star that may have actually died and faded away hundreds of millions of years ago is completely transformed into a conscious, living thought inside your active mind. The cosmos is clearly not merely a random collection of dead rocks, invisible dark matter, and blindly burning gas. It is a deeply dynamic, constantly evolving system that has somehow developed the miraculous capacity for self-reflection and awe. We are definitely not just tiny, passive observers watching the grand universe from the outside, separated by a pane of glass. We are the universe itself, a very specific, highly organized temporary collection of ancient star stuff that has miraculously learned exactly how to think, how to feel, and how to gently wonder about its own majestic origins. As the great astronomer Carl Sagan beautifully observed, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. And what do we, as a deeply curious species, choose to do with this rare, profoundly beautiful gift of waking consciousness? We collectively choose to build enormous, incredibly delicate instruments to look ever deeper into the terrifying dark. We construct massive telescopes on the freezing peaks of high, quiet mountains, and we launch incredibly complex mirrors into the deadly vacuum of space. We dedicate entire passionate careers, spanning many decades of patient observation and rigorous mathematics, just to try and understand celestial objects that we will absolutely never be able to physically touch or personally visit. We invest tremendous, staggering resources and countless quiet hours into answering abstract questions that have absolutely no immediate, practical application to our daily earthly survival. We do it because there is something fundamentally, beautifully restless in the human spirit that desperately needs to understand the unknown. We are inherently pattern-seeking, meaning-making creatures born from the ancient dark. We cannot simply look at a profound, silent mystery, like a giant elliptical galaxy sitting a billion light-years away, and not gently want to solve it. Our relentless drive to understand the wider cosmos is perhaps the absolute ultimate expression of what it truly means to be human. It represents our deep, quiet refusal to simply accept the limited world exactly as it physically appears to our basic senses, and it highlights our beautiful desire to peel back the heavy layers of reality to see the mathematical truth hiding quietly underneath. The long story of human discovery is a story of countless dedicated individuals, stretching across hundreds of generations, carefully passing the fragile torch of knowledge forward in the dark. When the astronomer William Herschel first spotted that extremely faint, fuzzy blob of cosmic light in the year 1790, he was looking through a simple telescope he painstakingly built with his own 2 hands, standing completely alone in the quiet, chilly dark. Today, when we patiently observe the massive core of IC 1101, we do so standing gently upon the intellectual, historical shoulders of thousands of brilliant men and women. The profound knowledge we have successfully gathered does not belong exclusively to any single isolated person or to any single wealthy nation. It is the shared, beautiful heritage of absolutely all humanity, a collective monument to our shared curiosity. This deeply shared pursuit of cosmic knowledge is something that can gently, peacefully unite us as a global species. In a human world that so often feels overwhelmingly chaotic, terribly divided, and filled with loud, fleeting anxieties, the quiet pursuit of astronomy offers a deeply necessary, calming perspective. It gently reminds us that our home planet is incredibly small, profoundly fragile, and undeniably precious. It quietly reminds us that the arbitrary borders we draw upon the Earth are entirely invisible from the silent depths of space, and that our shared human similarities are vastly, infinitely more important than our temporary, superficial differences. When we peacefully contemplate the undeniable scientific fact that we are absolutely all made of the exact same ancient star stuff, forged together in the exact same ancient nuclear fires, the petty things that divide us begin to seem incredibly small and entirely insignificant. We are all fellow mortal travelers, sharing a brief, beautiful, miraculous ride on a tiny, pale blue speck of dust suspended silently in a vast, ancient sunbeam. We are the cosmos dreaming of itself. Have you ever experienced a moment of sudden, profound stillness? A fleeting second where the rushing noise of the daily human world simply fades entirely away, leaving you perfectly anchored in the quiet present. Perhaps you were standing alone beneath a canopy of ancient trees, or looking out over the rhythmic, breathing surface of a dark ocean, or simply sitting in the peaceful solitude of your own room as the night gently gathered outside your window. In those rare, beautiful moments of absolute calm, when the relentless demands of our earthly existence temporarily release their tight grip on our attention, we are finally able to truly feel the majestic, ancient turning of the world. We remember, with a sudden, quiet shock of awe, that we are not merely individuals rushing through a purely human landscape, but that we are actual physical participants in an unimaginably vast, deeply mysterious cosmic unfolding. We have traveled incredibly far together on this quiet journey through the dark, pushing the very limits of our human imagination to explore the absolute grandest architecture the universe has to offer. Now, as our shared exploration slowly approaches its gentle conclusion, it is time for us to peacefully return from the staggering distances of the infinite multiverse, carrying the profound weight of our new understanding back to the familiar comfort of our pale blue dot. Let us slowly trace our path backward through the magnificent, silent dark. We gently leave behind the mind-bending reality of eternal inflation, saying a quiet farewell to the infinite, bubbling ocean of alternate realities, where countless other universes are being continuously born and dying in the dark. We slip smoothly back through the invisible, mathematical boundary of our own specific, beautifully fine-tuned pocket universe, re-entering the familiar, expanding fabric of our own space and time. We drift patiently past the ultimate, freezing future, moving backward through the trillions of years of slow, inevitable entropy. We watch in reverse as the phantom Hawking radiation gently reassembles into the monstrous, sleeping, supermassive black holes, and we observe the cold, dead pitch-black dwarfs miraculously reignite their ancient nuclear fires, blooming beautifully backward into brilliant, warming suns. We sail backward along the invisible, accelerating tide of dark energy, watching the isolated, lonely galaxy clusters slowly draw back together into a tightly woven, magnificent cosmic web. We follow those immense, invisible filaments of dark matter, those ancient, ghostly highways that dictate the grand structure of reality, until we finally arrive back at the massive, glowing heart of the Abel 2029 galaxy cluster. And there, sitting quietly in the center of its vast gravitational kingdom, is our old friend, the majestic giant IC1101. We pause for a gentle moment to look one last time upon its 100 trillion ancient, softly glowing stars. We remember the incredible violence of its ancient cannibalistic history, the dozens of gorgeous spiral galaxies that were slowly, inexorably drawn into its massive body, their delicate arms permanently erased in the slow-motion chaos of gravitational merging. We remember the profound, almost tragic irony that despite its staggering, incomprehensible size, it is a fading giant, a magnificent empire completely devoid of the cool gas necessary to birth new generations of light. We feel the terrifying, invisible presence of the 50 billion solar mass black hole resting silently at its core. A sleeping monster holding the entire vast structure perfectly together in the dark. But as we look at this colossal, mind-defying object, we no longer feel simply small or insignificant. We do not feel crushed by the overwhelming mathematical weight of 4 million to 6 million light-years of distance. Instead, we feel a deep, abiding, and beautifully profound connection. We remember the breathtaking journey we took inward, descending past the glowing stars, past the planetary nebulas, down into the microscopic, counterintuitive realm of the quantum foam. We remember the deeply humbling realization that the exact same invisible, bubbling quantum fluctuations that gave birth to the massive, sprawling filaments of the cosmic web are the exact same fluctuations that exist right now, at this very second, in the empty spaces between the atoms of our own human bodies. The monumental scale of IC1101 and the microscopic scale of our own biological cells are intimately, physically bound together by the exact same ancient, unbroken laws of physics. The universe does not exist purely out there, separated from us by a cold pane of glass. It exists fundamentally and undeniably right here, deeply woven into the very fabric of our physical being. As we gently resume our journey home, leaving the quiet giant behind in the deep Virgo constellation, we drift smoothly across a billion light-years of empty, silent space. We pass by countless billions of other swirling galaxies, each one a magnificent island universe containing its own ancient histories, its own tragic deaths, and, perhaps, hiding somewhere in the dark, its own quiet, conscious observers looking up and wondering exactly the same things we do. We finally reach the familiar, comforting outskirts of our own local group. We sail smoothly past the majestic, spinning disk of the Andromeda Galaxy, and we gently cross the dark, quiet gulf toward the beautifully curving spiral arms of our own home, the Milky Way. We navigate carefully through the thick, glowing clouds of ancient dust and the brilliant, chaotic nurseries of newly born stars in the Orion Arm, until we finally spot the familiar, warm, yellow glow of our own quiet sun. We drift past the frozen outer planets, past the massive gas giants, and finally arrive back at the delicate, spinning blue and white marble we call Earth. When we finally return our feet to the solid ground of our tiny world, the night sky looks completely different than it did before we began this shared journey. The stars are no longer just random, pretty pinpricks of light scattered carelessly across a flat, dark ceiling. They have become profound, ancient windows into the infinite. When you look up now, you can almost physically feel the staggering depth of the dark. You can vividly imagine the invisible, sprawling threads of dark matter holding the entire majestic structure beautifully together. You can sense the relentless, silent push of dark energy gently stretching the very fabric of the cosmos apart. And, most importantly, you can feel the quiet, ancient history of the universe coursing directly through your own veins, the heavy iron atoms carrying precious oxygen through your rushing blood, the sturdy calcium atoms forming the solid structure of your bones, and the complex carbon atoms composing the very delicate neurons in your active brain, were all patiently forged in the intense, chaotic nuclear hearts of stars that lived and died billions of years before the Earth was even a thought. We are, in the most literal, scientifically accurate sense imaginable, the universe actively exploring itself. We are a highly organized, temporarily conscious collection of ancient star stuff that has miraculously learned exactly how to think, how to feel, and how to genuinely wonder about its own magnificent, terrifying origins. We are a completely essential part of the grand cosmic equation. Without conscious observers to look up and measure the light, to calculate the immense distances, and to feel the deep, resonant awe of understanding, the universe would be a completely dark, silent, and entirely meaningless physical process. Our deeply human capacity to understand the 100 trillion stars of IC 1101 is the exact mechanism by which the cosmos gives its own existence profound, undeniable meaning. We are the waking mind of the infinite. This beautiful, humbling perspective offers us a profound, lasting peace. In our modern daily lives, we are constantly, relentlessly bombarded by immediate human anxieties. We worry about our fleeting careers, our complex social standing, our temporary financial security, and the endless, loud conflicts that frequently dominate our tiny global society. These human concerns are entirely valid and real to us, but they are also completely, wonderfully insignificant on the grand, sweeping scale of cosmic time. When we learn to regularly, gently zoom our perspective out, when we mentally travel to the absolute edge of a galaxy sitting 1 billion light-years away, the tight, suffocating grip of our daily anxieties begins to naturally loosen. We realize that we are perfectly safe within a vastly larger, ancient system that operates on a timeline of trillions of years. The universe is in absolutely no rush, and therefore neither are we. We can simply exist, breathe, and appreciate the magnificent, highly improbable miracle of our own quiet consciousness. The pursuit of this cosmic knowledge is not merely a dry academic exercise, it is a deeply spiritual, meditative practice. Every new discovery we make, every new telescope we launch into the freezing dark, and every new mathematical equation we carefully solve simply reveals another, even more beautiful layer of the infinite mystery. Science does not destroy the deep wonder of the cosmos by carefully explaining its mechanics. It exponentially amplifies it. To truly understand exactly how a supermassive black hole completely bends the fabric of space and time is a far more majestic, awe-inspiring experience than simply making up an ancient myth to explain the dark. True scientific understanding requires absolute, profound humility. It demands that we openly admit our own deep ignorance, that we willingly discard our most cherished preconceptions when the actual physical evidence points in an entirely different direction, and that we embrace the unknown not as a terrifying, dangerous void, but as a beautiful, quiet invitation to continue learning forever. As our gentle, cosmic journey together draws to a close tonight, I want to leave you with a final, comforting thought. The universe is incredibly vast, deeply ancient, and often completely incomprehensible to our limited earthly minds. But it is also our true, fundamental home. We belong to the cosmos exactly as much as the 100 trillion ancient stars of IC 1101 belong to it. We are beautifully, intricately connected to absolutely everything that exists, everything that has ever existed, and everything that ever will exist. The profound silence of the deep space is not empty or threatening. It is a peaceful, ancient blanket that wraps around our tiny world, keeping it perfectly safe in the dark. Our journey of discovery is an infinite, winding path, a continuous, shared exploration of the greatest mystery of all. I want to thank you, deeply and sincerely, for choosing to travel so incredibly far with me tonight. If this quiet exploration of the biggest galaxy ever discovered brought you a sense of profound peace, if it helped you see the majestic universe and your own beautiful place within it in a slightly different, more comforting light, I gently invite you to remain part of our shared community of cosmic explorers. The universe holds infinite secrets, and there are countless more quiet journeys waiting for us in the dark. But for now, as the night deepens and the ancient stars continue their silent, slow dance above, it is time to rest. Let the vast, comforting scale of the cosmos gently wash away the heavy worries of the day. Let the profound, ancient silence of the infinite void bring you a deep, lasting peace. Close your eyes, breathe softly, and know that you are a beautiful, essential part of the grandest story ever told.